Chapter 458. In everyone's opinion, Leng Zhua, who didn't dare to challenge Yi Chen, was just an undeserved reputation. He didn't deserve the title of Fatal Sword Caesar, nor did he deserve to be called one of the three great sword artists of the southern sector. However, they were wrong. His strength was definitely beyond their imagination. Four consecutive opponents were all famous sword artists, but they all lost miserably at his hands. The first opponent was Li Daoxian. He could only receive one sword strike, but he couldn't raise the second one no matter what, because Leng Zhua's sword was already on his neck. The second opponent was Feng Yanro, who could only receive one strike as well. It wasn't because her icy snow sword domain wasn't powerful enough, but because she didn't even have the time to use it. The opponent's sword was like a ghost, breaking through her defense before she could even react. It was terrifyingly fast and accurate. The third opponent was Fire Swamp Region's second-ranked Underworld Flame sword artist. His strength was also above the previous two, and he managed to receive 3 strikes from Leng Zhua. The first strike ended in a draw, the second strike knocked away his longsword, the third strike broke his protective Jin Yuan, and the fourth strike landed on his shoulder. The victory came so quickly that the spectators didn't even have the time to get excited. The fourth opponent was none other than Misty Snow Region's first-ranked Ling Hanya, also known as Drifting Snow Sword Artist. Despite his title, Ling Hanya's strength was only at the same level as Red Water Daoist Wang Qi, at most a bit higher. Therefore, he was still defeated, but at least he managed to exchange 7 strikes. At this point, the spectators finally understood that it wasn't that fatal sword artist Leng Zhua wasn't strong, but that Yi Chen was too strong. Even if he went up, he wouldn't be Yi Chen's opponent. What a frightening fatal swift sword. Mu Lingfeng mumbled. Yi Chen said, if the black sword artist's sword pursues destructive power, then Leng Zhua's sword pursues one-hit kill. The two are different styles, but from a certain perspective, Leng Zhua is more frightening. Mu Lingfeng faintly nodded. He was not a stupid person. Leng Zhua was like an assassin among sword artists, pursuing efficiency. Therefore, those with lower strength were even more unwilling to face him. In the following exchanges, Bing Ling, Mo Yan, Gu Yuyun, and Qian Yun all went up to challenge the young elites of other regions. Bing Ling's strength was only slightly inferior to Li Daoxian, Yan Qihua, and Bing Ling, which made many people exclaim at the freakishness of South Rudra region. With Yi Chen, Li Daoxian, and Yan Qihua, it was still not enough. Now, there was another Bing Ling. Perhaps the current lineup of South Rudra region couldn't compare to the top 3 regions, and in terms of average strength, it couldn't compare to the older regions like Misty Snow region, Cloud Billow region, and the other big regions. However, one had to understand the situation clearly. In the last tea gathering, South Rudra region was a joke. Among the hundreds of people present, only Xikong Sheng was from South Rudra region. Who would have thought that after 2 years, South Rudra region would undergo such a huge change, with powerful people emerging in large numbers? Bing Ling had shown her own brilliance, while Mo Yan had sunk into darkness. Of course, he would still be an amazing martial genius in South Rudra region. However, this was the southern regions, where there were no top geniuses, only more geniuses. The strength he had displayed was no different from normal geniuses. As for Gu Yuyun and Qian Yun, although they didn't display too much of their power, compared to their age and improvement in the past couple of years, they couldn't be ignored. What was certain was that in the future tea gathering, they would be the core power of South Rudra region. TSK. What a beautiful girl. Not only has South Rudra region completely changed, even the beauties here are extraordinary. Could it be that the heavens have started to love South Rudra region and have gathered all the natural essence there? Her name is Murong Qingcheng, right? She is indeed like her name. As soon as Murong Qingcheng went up, most of the young warriors were shocked. Some of the beauties who claimed to be beauties were also secretly jealous. Murong Qingcheng's opponent was not a normal warrior, but the third-ranked young warrior of Snow Iron region. The result was shocking. Her opponent didn't even have the strength to fight back, and had no choice but to admit defeat. The second opponent was even more powerful. He was the fourth-ranked young warrior of Floating Light Region. Floating Light Region was the region where Edict Prince resided, and was publicly recognized as one of the 3 most powerful regions in the southern regions. If he were to enter Misty Snow Region, he would probably be ranked second. However, he still wasn't Murong Qingqing's opponent. How is this possible? What happened in South Rudra Region? That cold beauty Bing Ling is already powerful enough, but this Murong Qingqing is even more powerful. Not to mention the average strength, South Rudra Region is definitely the number 1 region below the 3 most powerful regions. It's too frightening. Unknowingly, South Rudra Region had become the center of everyone's discussion, and it had never stopped. Hee, interesting. My hands are itching. In the Thunder Region formation, young cult leader Yin Zhongli, who was sitting beside Beast Prince Mo Xiang, stood up and walked up to the stage with a smile. What? Yin Zhongli is going to challenge Murong Qingqing? Yin Zhongli was very famous in the Thunder Region. In the last tea gathering, he was ranked just below Mo Xiang, ranked 3rd in the Thunder Region. However, Mo Xiang did not compete with him at that time. Seriously speaking, it was very likely that they were evenly matched. Even if Mo Xiang was stronger, he was only slightly stronger. Both of them had the strength of the top 10 of the southern sector. Yin Zhongli, one of the 10 fake dragons. On the other side, Edict Prince muttered. The beautiful girl named Yuxian shook her head. He will lose. Oh. Edict Prince was slightly surprised. If it were someone else who said this, he would have thought it over. However, since it was Yuxian who said it, he had to believe it even if he didn't want to, even though he knew that it wasn't good to blindly believe it. Yuxian's strength was not as good as his, but only he knew that her eyesight was frightening. It was a kind of deep insight. As the young leader of the Shining School and the great-grandson of the Shining King, Yin Zhongli was undoubtedly powerful. However, he was famous for his speed, which was like a flickering ghost. Once he activated his speed, apart from the Thunder Princess and the other 2, everyone else would have a headache. Shoo! 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 A dark yellow light flashed everywhere, and the crowd could no longer see Yin Zhongli's body. Light cut. Suddenly appearing behind Murong Qingqing, Yin Zhongli waved his arm, and a thin light arc that was dozens of meters long shot out like a flash of light. Crack. The light arc did not hit Murong Qingqing, but only created a large cluster of sparks on the exposed thunder iron. However, it seemed to be protected by a layer of restrictive energy, and was not damaged in the slightest. Yin Zhongli's brows creased. In that split second, Murong Qingqing had taken a couple of steps to the side. It was as if she had teleported, which was even faster than teleportation. 1,000 twist 100 stabs. Pushing his speed to the limit, Yin Zhongli would launch an attack every time he turned around. All of a sudden, the whole place was filled with his attacks, which was extremely strange. Heaven's rebuke. A black light flashed through her eyes as Murong Qingqing found Yin Zhongli's rhythm. She threw out a palm attack in advance, which contained a repulsive force. Not good. Yin Zhongli's body paused, forcefully changing his movement trajectory. Puff. The repulsive force was shapeless and formless. Yin Zhongli was fine, but a young man from the Snow Iron Region 1 li behind him was out of luck. He spurted out a mouthful of blood and flew out of the platform. He can actually see through my movement. Yin Zhongli was bewildered. Not only was Yin Zhongli bewildered, even the Thunder Princess and the other 2 were bewildered. They could only vaguely distinguish Yin Zhongli's movement trajectory from outside the arena. If they were on the scene, they would definitely not be able to attack in advance. No wonder you said that Yin Zhongli would lose. Edict Prince believed that in terms of seeing through movement trajectories, he was not as good as Murong Qingqing, and his opponent was probably at the same level as Yuxian. In terms of perception, the 2 of them were absolutely peerless. It's the same in the underground world. It was not the first time that Yi Chen had seen her perception power. That kind of perception power was not very likely to be mental power. Instead, it was a deeper and more mysterious power, a power that no one else could cultivate. Having his movement trajectory seen through continuously, Yin Zhongli finally lost his patience. The reason why he could be ranked third in the Thunder region and think that he would not lose to Mo Xiang was because of his movement skill. But now, his movement skill was useless, and his power was greatly reduced. So what if I've been seen through? Take this move of mine. Yin Zhongli performed a profound martial skill and attacked Murong Qingcheng with all his strength. Flying Assassination Cut. As a genius disciple of the Sky Flying Demon Martial School, it was impossible for Murong Qingcheng to not have trained a profound sense martial art. This profound sense martial art of hers was indeed the Flying Sky Assassination Cut, a horrifying killing attack that specialized in assassination. Combined with Murong Qingcheng's powerful observation, she would be able to pinpoint her opponent's weak spot within a second, jump into the air, and kill with one attack. Puff! Yin Zhongli's weak point was hit, and he was sent flying backward while vomiting blood. Unbelievably powerful. Even Yin Zhongli is not her opponent. Could it be that her power is not weaker than Yi Chen's? A small region that has been weak for a long time suddenly has 2 warriors in the top 10. This is crazy. Even the top 3 regions would not be this powerful. The Thunder Princess was a bit surprised at this result. But, she was indeed a true dragon-level genius of the southern region. She calmly announced, Murong Qingcheng wins. Murong Qingcheng nodded slightly and turned around to leave the stage. She did not seem to want to continue the battle. Yi Chen, Murong Qingcheng is also powerful. Mu Lingfeng turned his head to look at Yi Chen. After witnessing the battle between Murong Qingcheng and Yin Zhongli, he really did not know who was stronger, although Yi Chen had shown more power. Yi Chen faintly smiled, you only need to know that she is not simple. She always has been. Tua Baku said meaningfully, Yi Chen, you have to be careful of your position. Not only Murong Qingcheng, but Xikong Sheng, I also want to beat you. Yi Chen said casually, if you can, then go and fight. I will be waiting for you here. Ha, if I don't show my power, you won't take me seriously. It's my turn. Tua Baku could feel Yi Chen's domineering aura, so he laughed and walked onto the stage with big steps. His tall and majestic body looked like it was made of steel. Bang! Unstoppable, steady like a mountain. This was the image that Tua Baku gave to everyone. His opponents were defeated one after another under his destructive attacks. I am already numb. Is this really the South Rudra region? His strength is not any weaker than Yi Chen's. 3 people from one region can compete for the top 10 of the southern region. What a frightening lineup. Sizing up Tua Baku on the stage, Edict Prince thought to himself, he should be one of the 10 fake dragons. Adding that Yi Chen and Murong Qingcheng, the South Rudra region would have 3 fake dragons. They are not to be underestimated. Although he could see how many real dragon chi and fake dragon chi were in the sky above the Thunder City, he would still have to distinguish them face to face. For example, before Tua Baku went on the stage, he would never associate him with the fake dragon chi. Seeing Tua Baku, who was once weaker than him, Yan Qihua felt suffocated for a moment. He murmured, so, he has already caught up to Yi Chen. Yi Chen was the target of everyone in the South Rudra region. But now, Tua Baku and Murong Qingcheng had both displayed strength that was not any weaker than Yi Chen's, which made him feel an incomparably heavy pressure. Chapter 459. Thunder Region Mo Xiang, please teach me. Tua Baku's power had ignited Mo Xiang's battle intent. In his opinion, the South Rudra region had been in the limelight enough already, and it was time to beat them down a bit. Especially after Murong Qingcheng had shown such a horrifying power. If he did not show it now, even he himself would feel embarrassed. After all, he had told her that if she ran into any trouble in the Thunder City, she should just tell him his name. Right now, it sounded so annoying. His body left a long shadow in the air as Emo Xiang landed lightly in front of Tuo Baku. He had not even attacked yet, but a wave of powerful qi had already exploded. The main character is here. Tuo Baku put away his relaxed expression. The Beast Prince Emo Xiang was not just anyone. He was ranked second in the Thunder region and top 5 in the South region, a true dragon-level martial genius. Just the name of the Beast Prince was enough to oppress people to death. Not to mention the fact that he had not shown his power yet, so no one knew exactly how powerful he was. The two stood 100 meters away from each other, looking at each other quietly. Who? A gust of wind blew toward Tuo Baku from the south to the north, and Emo Xiang's back was facing the wind. The second the wind started to blow, Emo Xiang moved. No one could describe how agile Emo Xiang's movement was. This kind of agility was not something a human should have, but a flying beast. He opened both of his arms, and before he could even think of anything, he had already arrived in front of Tuo Baku, throwing out his most powerful attack. His body slightly tilted in the air as his right knee kicked out. Emo Xiang's attack was both simple and aggressive. Wild goose attack. Tuo Baku's pupils shrank suddenly. Right then, Emo Xiang was no different from a beast in his eyes, and it was a beast that was full of intelligence. This simple knee attack brought up a blue meteor-like tail flame. In that split second, he could only cross his arms and take it head-on. Dong! One attacked with all of his power, while the other was defending passively. It was destined that Emo Xiang would have the upper hand. Tuo Baku's feet rubbed the surface of the platform as he backed out. That powerful pressure formed behind him. So powerful. Tuo Baku had to admit that he had underestimated Emo Xiang. Being able to be ranked in the top 5 of the southern regions, it was definitely not just for show. After gaining the upper hand in one move, Emo Xiang's offensive didn't stop. Borrowing the force of the collision, he soared into the sky and chopped down with a high kick. This high kick was like 100 zhang long python pouncing at full strength towards his opponent. The terrifying leg pressure caused the air to surge like waves, rolling to both sides. Python pounce. Tuo Baku was not a normal warrior after all. Even if he had lost the upper hand, he did not lose his calmness. Facing that powerful kick, he lowered his body into a horse stance and threw out a series of punches while backing out. Savage 18 punches. Boom! With Tuo Baku as the center, countless fist shadows blossomed, looking like the blooming of a daffodil. Get down! Emo Xiang groaned with a low voice. His body twisted, and 7 human-shaped shadows shot out. These 7 human-shaped shadows combined with his real body, attacking Tuo Baku with even more aggressive leg attacks. Each attack brought with it a horrifying poetic perspective. Hundreds and thousands of attacks were thrown down, like an army attacking a battlefield. Crack! Bending his knees, Tuo Baku became a little shorter. The sound of his bones being squeezed kept on being heard. He suspected that if this continued, he would be squashed. A wild light shot out of his eyes as Tuo Baku roared. His spine and knees straightened up. The second he straightened up, it was as if there were countless air bombs exploding around him. The chi flow was messy, forming into a dragon shape that lingered in the air for a long time. Dragon World. Who? Tuo Baku threw out an extremely horrifying dragon-shaped chi into the sky. The dragon-shaped chi roared into the sky, its massive head seeming to be able to swallow Emo Xiang and the space around him. The thin air had been stirred up until it looked like liquid. Bring out all of your power. Otherwise, you will lose very soon. Emo Xiang's arms suddenly exploded with a blue chi flow. It was like fire, burning fiercely. He crossed his arms and lifted them up high before attacking down. Tiger Soul cross attack. Boom! That crossed light was like a sky blade. With one attack, the dragon-shaped chi was shattered into pieces. Tuo Baku puked out a mouthful of blood and was blown backward. So powerful. Is this the power of the beast Prince Emosiang? He is indeed one of the top 5 martial geniuses of the southern region. Even Tua Baku, who was at the same level as Yi Chen, was not his opponent. It seems like in this tea gathering, Emosiang's status will still be the same. Everyone was shocked by Emosiang's battling power, especially the people from the Thunder region. They were all excited, and their faces were full of pride. Emosiang being powerful meant that their Thunder region would be powerful as well, even though they still had the Thunder Princess, who was even more powerful. This guy is so powerful. Wiping off the blood on the corner of his mouth, Tua Baku lifted up his head. His wild eyes released an even more intense battling intent, as if he had just woken up. Interesting. Emosiang could sense the change in Tua Baku, and his nerves tightened. Shoo! Tua Baku bent his knees and shot into the air. His left and right hands each threw out a dragon-shaped chi attack at Emosiang. I told you, this is useless against me. Tiger Soul cross attack. The crossed light flashed once, and the 2 dragon-shaped chi attacks shattered instantly. However, in the next second, a shocking scene happened. A colorful giant lizard shadow appeared behind Tua Baku. Its body looked like a lizard, but its head was a real dragon head. With the help of the giant lizard shadow, Tua Baku looked like a god as he threw out a palm attack. Awoo! A loud dragon roar was heard as the giant lizard shadow extended its neck and bit Emosiang, smashing him onto the ground. Blood spilled out of Emosiang's mouth. He had been wounded. What? No one had expected this kind of change to happen to Tua Baku's body. They all opened their mouths wide, not knowing what to say. Right next to Mu Lingfeng, a strange look flashed through Yi Chen's eyes. Giant lizard shadow, 3-headed snake shadow. Perhaps there is some kind of connection between them. When people from the Wang family of the Snake Island battled with all of their power, a 3-headed snake shadow would appear behind their backs. The more powerful they were, the more snake heads they would have. Wang's snake had a 5-headed snake tattoo on his body, which meant that his bloodline was extremely rich, and his potential was extremely powerful as well. What I am sure of is that Tua Baku does not have a king bloodline, but his bloodline seems to be even more powerful than that. The king bloodline would show one's potential, but it would not affect one's current power. However, Tua Baku's bloodline could increase his power drastically, which was something that the king bloodline could not compete with. This is your real power. Puking out a mouthful of blood, the chi flow outside of Emosiang's body started to move rapidly. Because of the speed, his whole body looked like it was being cooked. Endless blue chi flow spread out from inside to outside, burning fiercely and twisting, which made Emosiang's aura increase drastically. A bloody battle. It was about to start. Enough, this battle is considered a draw. The Thunder Princess could tell that the two were fighting with all their might. If they continued to fight, one of them would die for sure. Plus, this was just a friendly battle, not a life and death battle. Dispersing the giant lizard shadow behind him, Tua Baku chuckled, consider yourself lucky. Otherwise, even I would not be able to control the situation from now on. Emosiang sneered, you are lucky as well. Besides the battle with the Edict Prince in the last tea gathering, I have never shown my full power. Same here. The two's battle intent was endless, and they wished they could fight again. Seeing the two clashing with each other, the spectators did not find it funny at all. Since the beginning of the tea gathering, this would be the most powerful battle. Whether it was Yi Chen against the Black Sword Artist or Murong Qingcheng against Yin Zhongli, none of them could compare to this battle. In their minds, Tua Baku and Emosiang were already the most powerful warriors below the top 3 dragon-level martial geniuses. Without any surprises, they would definitely be in the top 6. As for Yi Chen, although his sword arts were powerful, and that reverse sky thunder cut had shocked a lot of people, it did not mean that he was powerful. The two were completely different concepts. I really did not expect that the most powerful warrior in the South Rudra region would not be Yi Chen, but this Tuabaku. Ling Hanye shook his head and forced a smile. He was thinking about what his rank would be in the South Rudra region. There were Tuabaku, Yi Chen, and Murong Qingqing in front of him, and he would only be ranked 4th at most. If that Xikong Sheng was also extremely powerful, he would only be ranked 5th. In the Misty Snow region, he would be ranked 1st, but in a small region like the South Rudra region, he would only be ranked 4th or 5th. The reality was indeed a joke. Qingzhu also sighed. I thought Yi Chen was the most powerful one in the South Rudra region. Feng Yanro did not say anything. Her intuition told her that Yi Chen was not that simple. But, the truth was right in front of her eyes, and she could not refute it. Plus, this Tuabaku was indeed powerful, ridiculously powerful. The second that giant lizard's shadow appeared, it seemed like it had brought her to a wild world. How is it? Not bad, right? Returning to his seat, Tuabaku picked up his teacup and drank all of the tea inside as he chuckled to Yi Chen. Yi Chen nodded. Why do I feel like our South Rudra region is a place full of hidden dragons and crouching tigers? Before, there was Murong Qingqing, and now, there is you. There was one more person that he did not mention, which was Su Jing. Tuabaku knew what he was talking about, so he said mysteriously, I cannot tell anyone about this. Yi Chen smiled, but did not say anything else. In the third pavilion nearby, the 7th knight said to Xikong Sheng, plans cannot keep up with changes. 4th knight, it seems like your biggest opponent is not Yi Chen, but Tuabaku. Xikong Sheng looked at Tuabaku with a serious expression and said lightly, take it slow. Tuabaku's sudden appearance was something that he had not expected. Facing Tuabaku face to face, he did not have the confidence to win at all. As for who was more powerful and who was weaker, he would have to fight to find out. Bystanders would not be able to understand the real details of the battle after all. Otherwise, the battle would be meaningless. A bit of light appeared in the sky. Unknowingly, a night had passed. The tea gathering was said to be going for 3 days, but it was actually going for 3 days and 3 nights. For astral-reaching realm warriors, 3 days and 3 nights without sleep would not affect them at all. Once they reached the Sea of Souls realm, 1 month without sleep would not affect their mental state and battling power at all. It would only make them more excited. After the battle between Tuabaku and Mo Xiang, the heated atmosphere had calmed down. Everyone also needed time to digest the experience that they had gained from watching the previous battles. While drinking tea, they talked to each other in a low voice, looking like a real tea gathering. Chapter 460. Yeah, this guy's wood mentality is not bad. It has a thorny feeling to it. Whip? That's right. The wood mentality can represent many things, such as big trees and thorns. It can also represent vines. Vines are very soft, and with a whip, it would have a huge destructive power. The thickness of wood is not the same as the thickness of soil. It is more holistic. There were around 400 people participating in the tea gathering, and more than 40 of them had mastered the wood mentality. Although all of them had mastered the wood mentality and had already reached the limit, the wood mentality of each one of them was different and not the same. While they were sparring, Yi Chen would carefully observe the wood mentality contained in their martial arts, gradually perfecting his own, preparing for the 9th movement of the Green Lotus sword arts. No matter how powerful Yi Chen's sword intent was, the lack of killing moves would always be a problem. Therefore, he had to learn the 9th movement of the Green Lotus sword arts. With this move, he would have 3 killing moves, which would be more or less enough for him at the moment. As he observed more and more, he learned more and more. Yi Chen suddenly reached out his right hand, using his fingers as a sword to practice. Shoo! 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 Without using Zhen Yuan or sword intent, Yi Chen was just practicing calmly, as if he was drawing a pattern in the air. However, after dozens of fingers, a change occurred. Wherever Yi Chen's fingers passed, the air seemed to be sliced by an extremely sharp sword, making a swishing sound. Later on, an extremely faint finger light appeared on his fingertip. This finger light had nothing to do with anything else, it seemed to be the sharpness of Yi Chen's body. The sharpness of his fingers was condensed from the sharpness qi. What is going on? Tuo Baku and Mu Lingfeng looked at Yi Chen with shock. They were sure that Yi Chen did not use his Jin Yuan or sword intent, but where did that finger light come from? It was so sharp, indescribably sharp, as if its very nature was sharp. His palm lightly patted the table, and the small teacup jumped up. Tuo Baku flicked the cup with his finger, and it shot out without a sound, passing by Yi Chen. Coincidentally, Yi Chen's finger tapped on the teacup. Time seemed to freeze for a moment. An extremely thin and sharp gust of wind shot out from the back of the teacup, leaving a small hole in the pavilion pillar. On the other hand, the teacup was not damaged at all, and the tea inside did not spill out. Grabbing the teacup with his left hand, Yi Chen took a sniff. It smelled nice, so he handed it over to Tuo Baku. Tuo Baku caught the teacup and hurried to check it, then again. Eventually, he lifted up his head and said with confusion, "No holes." Yi Chen smiled and said, "Of course there are no holes." The holes on the pillars of the pavilion? That hole was caused by my inability to control my sword intent. Strange. Tuo Baku still could not figure it out. If it was made by the sword intent, then it would not be possible for it to reach the pillar through the teacup. But if it was not made by the sword intent, then the hole on the pillar would not have formed in the first place. Both of them were impossible, so which one was more possible? The edge of the sword. It turns out that I am still missing the gold mentality. By observing other people's wood mentality, Yi Chen's understanding of the wood mentality was quite deep. He had already seen the beginning of the 9th movement of the Green Lotus sword art. Therefore, he became interested and started to practice it with his fingers instead of his sword. As he trained, he forgot about the wood mentality and the 9th movement of the Green Lotus sword art. He sank into that kind of understanding of the sword. Since he had always been using the sword to fight against his enemies, and the sword was made of metal, it was naturally sharp. Therefore, his sword arts had always been sharp as well. But without the sword, he realized that he still lacked the sharpness, the edge of the sword. Until then, he finally understood how sad it would be for a sword artist to not learn the gold mentality, since no matter how good the other mentalities were, they would not be as sharp as the gold mentality. The gold mentality was like the bridge between the sword artist and the sword. With this bridge, the sword artist would be able to push their edge to the extreme and show the power of a sword artist. On the other hand, without this bridge, the sword artist would always be separated from the sword, and would not be able to burst out the extreme attacking power. Although I have only understood it now, it is not too late. Yi Chen let out a breath as his eyes landed on the small hole in the middle of the pillar. The hole was indeed created by the sword intent, but it was attached to the sharp qi. The sharp qi was formless and intangible, and the sword intent itself was also formless and intangible. Once it reached a certain level, it would be able to affect reality, which was why it had become formless and tangible. The two did not combine before going through the teacup, which was why the teacup did not shatter. After going through the teacup, the sharp qi and the sword intent combined and immediately left a small hole on the pillar. This finger attack contained all of Yi Chen's sharpness. But it was still far from enough. The 9th movement of the Green Lotus sword art is already showing signs. Next, I need to learn the gold mentality. I almost know where I should go in the future. The famous sword artists all had their own paths, which were their own sword arts. For a long time, Yi Chen's sword arts had not been very clear, and he only knew how to walk on it. But now, he had found his own sword arts. It might be full of thorns, but once it was completed, he would be the number one on it. He would be able to compete with the ancient sword kings, and it would also allow him to step on the higher path of the Sword Emperor. Sword Emperor. What was the Sword Emperor? The king of the sword, the number one in all of history. No matter how powerful the ancient Sword King was, he was only a Sword King, not a Sword Emperor. The reason why he could not be called emperor was because he could not compete with the other emperors of the same generation, and was forced to call himself a king. Although there was no limit to one emperor, it was still extremely hard to become the Sword Emperor. Yi Chen had already prepared for anything. Clenching his fists slightly, Yi Chen could feel his blood boiling. Boom! The chi waves on the stage shot up into the sky, shaking the entire pavilion slightly. Yi Chen looked over and realized that it was Xikong Sheng who had entered the arena. His opponent was very powerful. He was the number 1 young warrior in the Fire Swamp region, and his power was not weaker than the number 3 warrior in the Thunder region, Yin Zhongli. The two exchanged dozens of attacks. The sky-high chi waves had nowhere to go, and they kept shooting up into the sky. Lose. His opponent performed a profound sense martial art, attacking towards Xikong Sheng heavily. Xikong Sheng was not scared at all, and he also used his profound sense martial art to fight back. Boom! A mottled light ball exploded, and Xikong Sheng backed out quickly without being wounded at all. However, his opponent did not know what had happened to him, but his body was frozen right there as he took the attack head-on, puking out a mouthful of blood. Xikong Sheng's profound sense martial art is a bit strange. Yi Chen had seen through it immediately. It was not that the number 1 young warrior in the Fire Swamp region did not want to back out, but he could not. That fist attack from Xikong Sheng seemed to have some kind of connection with the ground, using the endless gravity to freeze his opponent, forcing him to not be able to lift his feet for a second, forcing him to take the attack head-on. Chapter 461. As for Xikong Sheng's power, no one had the energy to be amazed anymore. They all knew that in this tea gathering, there were 4 powerful warriors from the South Rudra region, Tuabaku, Yi Chen, Murong Qingcheng, and Xikong Sheng. All of them had the power to make it into the top 10. The other regions, including the top 3 regions, were all weaker than the South Rudra region in terms of top warriors. For example, the Thunder region would only have the Thunder Princess, Mo Xiang, and Yin Zhongli. The top warriors from the Floating Light region had not all shown up yet, but there would not be more than 3 of them. It was the same for the Gold Sand region. Besides the top 3 regions, there were also the Black Sword Artist from the Black Gold region and the number 1 young warrior from the Fire Swamp region, CMO, who had just been beaten by Xikong Sheng. Lu Hun from the Floating Light region. After Xikong Sheng had beaten CMO, another powerful warrior stood up. He was the number 2 warrior from the Floating Light region, Lu Hun. Just like Mo Xiang, he was also one of the top 5 martial geniuses from the southern regions, with a dragon-level battling power. I hope he does not end up in a draw. Mo Xiang did not think that Lu Hun would lose, but he was afraid that Lu Hun and Xikong Sheng would end up in a draw. After all, the tea gathering was supposed to be a draw. On the 2 miles wide stage, Xikong Sheng and Lu Hun stood 100 meters away from each other. The two attacked almost at the same time. Xikong Sheng's body shook once as he performed his space move step, appearing right next to Lu Hun within a second and throwing out a punch. Fist Tyrant River. Boom! The fist that carried a horrifying power was stopped by a palm, and the owner of the palm was naturally Lu Hun. His body was not huge, and his aura was not aggressive either. However, his body was filled with a mountain-like aura. Under that heavy aura, his every movement was extremely firm. Even when he was blocking Xikong Sheng's palm attack, he still looked extremely calm and relaxed. The fist power and the palm power clashed with each other, and the blast wave that exploded was like a huge pot that had been flipped upside down, blowing the two away. Fist-shattering river. Xikong Sheng wanted to win too much. Even when he was flying backward, he did not forget to attack. He pulled his right fist back to his waist and threw it out. The fist power pierced through the air, leaving a black mark in the air. The black mark extended toward Lu Hun's chest. True martial kill. Facing this powerful fist attack, Lu Hun straightened his right hand and turned his palm into a blade. He threw out a blade attack, cutting off the black mark's path and shattering Xikongsheng's attack. Whoosh! Whoosh! As soon as the two of them landed on the ground, they pounced at each other again. The switch between stillness and movement was so quick. Fist conquering the country. Fist breaking the mountains and seas. Fist breaking the sky. True martial divine palm. True martial interception. Dark counterattack. Both of them used their ultimate skills and were locked in battle. The entire arena was filled with the shadows of their fists and palm prints. Starry Sky Punch. Finally, Xikongsheng performed the last movement of his mysterious Sky Tyrant fist art. Its power was equivalent to 20 to 30% of a profound sense martial art. In the air above the mountain and mountain platform, countless stars flickered in a picturesque manner. That was the phenomenon created by the fist energy. Anyone who came into contact with any of the stars would suffer a crazy attack. Those who faced this attack would feel as if they were in the starry sky, unable to retaliate. Powerful. But, it does not work on me. A serious look flashed through Lu Hun's eyes. He stomped on the ground and turned his body into the air. Countless dark blue palm prints shot out towards Xikongsheng's fist power. Each of them would cancel out one of the stars, taking up half of the space. As his Jin Yuan was pushed to its limit, the dark blue light around his body intensified, continuously forming into dragon, phoenix, tiger, and turtle shapes, looking like a celestial being. Naturally, Xikongsheng did not think that he could beat Lu Hun easily. After all, the latter was at the same level as Mo Xianghe. Even if he was weaker, it would not be that much weaker. All of Xikongsheng's clothes fluttered in the air without any wind. He took a step forward with his right foot and threw out a fist attack. Wait, this fist attack did not hit the ground. It was stopped when it was 3 feet away from the ground. However, a wave of ocean-like chi power had spread out along the ground. At first, it was messy, but halfway through, it had shrunk to half its size. By the time it reached the ground below Lu Hun, it had already condensed into a beam and exploded, spreading out in a fan shape. Pap! 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 Before the chi power arrived, the spiral chi field outside of Lu Hun's body had already sensed it, making a weak exploding sound. However, Lu Hun did not care about it at all. The dark blue turtle formed by his Jin Yuan suddenly sank down and was stepped on by his feet before falling down. Boom! The exploding sound of chi power continued to be heard. Xikongsheng's attack had been shattered completely before it could even land. That dark blue turtle had an unimaginable suppressive power. Dragon, phoenix, tiger, turtle. The martial art on the turtle is the earth mentality. Perhaps, you have mastered all 4 of them. Xikongsheng sneered as he jumped out, throwing out the profound sense martial art that he had used to beat CMO, the top young warrior in the fire swamp region, the earth core sinking. Yah! Such a horrifying gravity. Stepping on the dark blue turtle made of Jin Yuan, Lu Hun felt that he could not move even an inch, as if he was being pulled by the gravity deep underground. Right in front of him, Xikongsheng's fist enlarged in front of his eyes, that horrifying fist power attacking at a high speed in a spiral shape. If you can't dodge it, then you will have to face it head-on. You might not be able to dodge it. White Tiger Kill. Sinking his chi into his dantian, Lu Hun's eyes shot out a godly light. He reached out his left hand and placed his right fist on his waist, throwing out a punch with a white gold light, clashing with Xikongsheng's fist power. Boom! A mottled light ball was formed between the two's fists. In the next second, the light ball exploded. Pooh! Pooh! It was not only Lu Hun who puked out blood, but Xikongsheng was also puking out blood. How is this possible? Xikongsheng realized that he was the same as his opponent, unable to move even an inch. He had been forced to take on the backfire of the blast wave, which had wounded his internal organs. Lu Hun wiped the blood off his mouth. My black tortoise suppression had suppressed everything within dozens of meters, including you. Although the backfire of the blast wave was very powerful, it had already been weakened by 30%. In other words, I had only taken on 70% of the backfire. What about you? Xikongsheng had a bad look on his face. He could tell that Lu Hun's wound was lighter than his. If they continued to fight, he would definitely not be his opponent. In the distance, Mo Xiang, who was watching the battle, laughed. Although Lu Hun and I have the same power, he is much more durable than me. Fighting with him head-on, the one who would suffer is 80%. As a true dragon-level warrior, the Thunder Princess had naturally seen all the details of the last battle. She said lightly, "This battle, Lu Hun wins." To be able to push Lu Hun to this level. Below the top 3 true dragon-level warriors, only the Beast Prince, Mo Xiang, had managed to do this. Although he lost, it was still an honor. This Xikongsheng is indeed powerful. Everyone was well aware of this result. Although it seemed like Xikongsheng had lost to Lu Hun, he was actually being suppressed. If it were another warrior who was at the same level as Lu Hun, he might not lose. The sun had risen to the middle of the sky, and it was already afternoon. By now, everyone had a rough ranking in their hearts. If there were no accidents, this ranking would be the truth. In most people's minds, the top 3 would be the top 3 true dragon-level warriors, which were the Thunder Princess, the Edict Prince, and the Astral Spirit Sun. The top 7 would be Mo Xiang, Tuabaku, Lu Hun, and Xikongsheng. The top 15 would be Yi Chen, Murong Qingcheng, the Black Sword Artist, the Deadly Sword Artist, Leng Zhua, Yin Zhongli, CMO. Those young warriors who were ranked at the back basically had no hope of fighting for a higher rank, since no matter how hard they tried, they would still be at the back. They could just find some warriors with similar power to fight, since there were so many of them, and the further they were at the back, the harder it would be to determine their rank. In the afternoon, another top battling power had appeared in the Gold Sand region, and it was the beautiful lady with purple hair who was standing right next to the Astral Spirit Sun. She had rarely been out in the martial world before, and no one knew about her. Even the young warriors of the Gold Sand region barely knew about her, so they did not know her power. But, once she attacked, the power she had displayed was enough to shock people. She was actually a dragon-level warrior who was not weaker than Mo Xiang. Murong Qingcheng, let's have some fun. The beautiful lady with purple hair called herself Luo Shanv. She seemed to be very interested in Murong Qingcheng. After beating a couple of powerful warriors, she called out her name. All right. Murong Qingcheng nodded and flew into the air. Boom. 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 The battle between the two was extremely intense. The purple light and the black light interweaved and clashed continuously, each occupying half of the sky. Luo Shan's attacks were ruthless, and each of them was extremely explosive. Murong Qingcheng's eyesight was unparalleled. She could always block out Luo Shan's fatal attacks and attack her weak points. She was even more powerful than Mo Yan's sky demon eyes. Plus, every time a black light flashed in Murong Qingcheng's eyes, her battling power would increase by a lot, which forced Luo Shan to defend for a while to avoid exposing a fatal flaw. I was wrong. Murong Qingcheng does not seem to be weaker than Luo Shan. Doesn't that mean that her power is also at the same level as Mo Xiang? It is just that she did not show it before. Inside the South Rudra region, the weakest one would be Yi Chen. I really do not understand. Not necessarily. The South Rudra region is full of powerful warriors. Perhaps, Yi Chen has hidden his power as well. That is not possible, right? Tuabaku, Xikongsheng, and Murong Qingcheng are all at the demi-dragon level. Adding Yi Chen, it would be too much. Stop talking. The winner is about to be decided. Boom. The chi waves spread out on the battlefield as the two human figures were blown back. Flying sky assassination cut. Touching the ground with the tip of her foot, Murong Qingqing threw out her ace attack. Luo Shan's purple hair danced in the air as a deep purple light shot out from her eyes. She threw out a purple light arc with her spear, which blocked out Murong Qingqing's attack. Then, she twisted her body, holding another short spear in her left hand. She stabbed it towards Murong Qingqing's chest. That spear attack had almost blocked all of Murong Qingqing's escape routes. Besides fighting it head-on, there would be no other option. And if she fought it head-on, then the one who would lose would probably be Murong Qingqing, since her attacking power was not as powerful as Luo Shan. Right then, a black light appeared on her skin. As the black light appeared, Murong Qingqing's chi field changed drastically. With the help of her chi, a black chi flow appeared above the Thunder City. However, all of a sudden, the black light on Murong Qingqing's skin disappeared, and the black chi flow above the Thunder City disappeared as well, as if it was just an illusion. Dong! In the end, Murong Qingqing lost to Luo Shan and was slightly wounded. Chapter 462. Jing Aoshuan, do you dare to fight me? Defeating Murong Qingqing did not satisfy Rakshasa's daughter. She turned around and stared at the Thunder Princess with her gem-like eyes. What? She wants to challenge Princess Jing. Such ambition. Does she plan to shake the entire southern sector? Perhaps it's the spirit of not admitting defeat between women. In this tea gathering, Princess Jing, Murong Qingqing, and her were the most dazzling ones. Now that she has defeated Murong Qingqing, only Princess Jing is left. I wonder if Princess Jing will accept the challenge. Thunder Princess Jing Aoshuan held the teacup in her hand and took a sip elegantly. She then put down the teacup and said lightly, why not? Jing Aoshuan's voice was calm, and her movements were elegant. However, everyone could feel the domineering aura that was hidden in her bones. As she said that, the air currents in the sky seemed to have started to move, and the weather changed. Sensing Jing Aoshuan's powerful aura, Rakshasa's daughter squinted her gem-like eyes, giving off a dangerous and serious change. Standing up, Jing Aoshuan walked over step by step. Let's begin. All right. The two were 100 meters apart, staring at each other quietly. Their gazes clashed, and their auras clashed. As their auras clashed, the space between the two made a strange noise, as if there was an electric current brewing, ready to explode at any moment. Luo Shan's pupils shrunk. Jing Aoshuan's power was even more powerful than she had imagined. Not only did her aura not get the upper hand, but it had also been sucked into a thunder tornado, being devoured and weakened. However, Rakshasa's daughter did not panic. Since she dared to challenge the famous Thunder Princess, Jing Aoshuan, she naturally had the confidence to do so. Before she came, she had already trained the Rakshasa art to the 14th level, and had also trained 2 low-rank ultimacy martial arts to 40% mastery. Other than not having a real martial soul, she did not seem to have any weaknesses. Moreover, she had a purple chi pearl in her hand. This pearl was a high-grade treasure. Not only could it store a large amount of true essence within it, but it could also temporarily extract true essence to make one's true essence even more vigorous and surging, increasing one's battle prowess by quite a bit. Boom! Rakshasa's daughter took a step forward. The surging purple light was like a small purple sun. The short spear in her right hand suddenly pierced out as fast as lightning. Pitter-patter. This stab of Rakshasi was extraordinary. It forcibly swept up a large number of airflow vortexes. The airflow vortexes rose and fell one after another, growing stronger and stronger. It compressed the space in which Jing Aoshuan could move. Ding! Just like Murong Qingqing, Jing Aoshuan wore gloves on her hands. Murong Qingqing's glove was made of golden silk, while Jing Aoshuan's glove was made of blue silk. The glove was smooth, thin, and slightly transparent. As Jing Aoshuan reached out with her right hand, the airflow vortexes shattered one after another. Finally, 2 fingers clamped onto the tip of Rakshasa's spear, making a crisp sound of metal exploding. Arrogant. Rakshasa's daughter saw that Jing Aoshuan had used 2 fingers to block her attack. Her face turned purple as she stabbed out with her other short spear. This spear was like a storm. It was Rakshasa's daughter's attack that had been accumulating power. Jing Aoshuan looked calm. She rubbed her fingers that were clamping onto the tip of the spear, and a blue electric arc exploded. The high heat even caused the tip of the spear to show signs of melting, turning it bright red. Rakshasa's daughter was stimulated by the electric arc. Her body went slightly numb, and her attack slowed down a bit. At that moment, Jing Aoshuan took back her fingers and clenched them into a fist, punching the incoming short spear. Clang! A large amount of sparks shot up into the sky, like fireworks exploding in front of the 2 of them. Well done. As expected of Jing Aoshuan. Jing Aoshuan's nonchalant attitude made Rakshasa's daughter's fighting spirit even stronger. She leaped into the air and opened her arms. The 2 short spears spun a few times on her palms, as if she was holding 2 purple light wheels. Then, she swung them down fiercely, slashing out 2 arcs of light that tore the sky apart. Rakshasa's daughter thought that Jing Aoshuan would temporarily avoid the attack and take a few steps back. In that case, she would be able to perform her follow-up moves continuously, gaining the upper hand step by step until victory. Unexpectedly, Jing Aoshuan advanced instead of retreating. She took the initiative to enter the attack range of the arcs of light. Clang! 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 Her sky-blue sleeves fluttered as Jing Aoshuan continued to throw out punches. Each of her punches gave off a powerful and domineering aura. The fist pressure was also tightly attached to the front of her fists, forming a thin film with lightning flickering on it. The arcs of light from Rakshasa's attack were all shattered under this pair of fists. Not giving an inch, indeed the style of the Thunder Princess. Since you don't want to, then I will retreat. Let's see who will be the one laughing in the end. Shoo! Seeing that her attack had failed, Rakshasa's daughter suddenly retreated, coming and going as she pleased. Sigh. Edict Prince shook his head, not saying anything. Astral Spirit Son slightly creased his brows, not saying anything either. You think you can retreat? 2 arcs of lightning flashed in front of Jing Aoshuan's eyes. With her as the center, the air within 3 meters instantly turned into a vacuum, causing the surrounding air to squeeze towards her. At the same time, Rakshasa's retreat was like a boat going against the current, her speed decreasing rapidly. World Domination Fist. Boom! The radiating fist energy exploded, causing blood to leak out from the corner of Rakshasa's daughter's mouth. So that's how it is. If I don't retreat, I will still have a chance. But once I do, there will be no chance at all. Rakshasa's daughter was clear in her mind. She knew that she had made a huge mistake in front of Jing Aoshuan. Biting her lips, a purple mist rose from her face as the purple chi pearl on her neck poured a huge amount of Jin Yuan into her body. With the addition of this Jin Yuan, her aura increased drastically. The purple light around her body had already made the sun in the sky lose its color. Purple Light Sky Strike. A purple light ball condensed on the tip of her spear as Rakshasa threw it at Jing Aoshuan. It was indeed one of the 2 profound sense martial arts she had mastered. Extreme Emperor World Domination Fist. From the beginning, Jing Aoshuan had not taken a single step back, and it was the same at this moment. She took a step forward and threw out another fist. However, this fist was twice as powerful as the previous one. The radiating fist energy tore through the sky and spread out. Pooh! Rakshasa's daughter's spear couldn't go any further because a fist was blocking it. She wanted to use her left hand to deliver a second strike, but the radiant fist force had already traveled along the spear's body, sending her flying into the air. she opened her mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. One step back, and then all the steps back. This was the biggest taboo when fighting with Jing Aoshuan. Stabilizing herself, Rakshasa's daughter wiped the blood off her lips. Royal martial arts are indeed powerful. There is no such thing as taking a step back. Actually, she knew that even if she did not take a step back, she would not be Jing Aoshuan's opponent. At most, she would only be able to buy some time, which would be pointless. Jing Aoshuan said, "You are already very powerful to be able to force me to use my extreme emperor world domination fist. A loss is a loss. I admit defeat." Rakshasa's daughter was not someone who could not afford to lose. Plus, losing to Jing Aoshuan was expected, but winning was unexpected. After that, the two returned to their seats. Indeed, Princess Jing has won. Isn't that obvious? Even if the Edict Prince and the Astral Spirit Son were to fight against Princess Jing, they would still be on par. Rakshasa's daughter is still a bit weaker after all. It seems like it will still be a three-way battle this year. Everyone was discussing, their voices filled with excitement. Since the martial tea gathering has been held, we will have to find out who is stronger. Lu Han, let's have a battle. It was Tuo Baku who had spoken. He had not beaten Mo Xiang yet, so he had been itching for a fight. Lu Han and Mo Xiang were two different types of young warriors, and they would be powerful opponents. All right. Lu Han was also filled with a powerful battling intent. Not only him, Mo Xiang, Sikong Sheng, Rakshasa's daughter, and the other dragon-level warriors would not let it go just like that. The two had similar power, so the battle had reached its climax right from the beginning. The chi waves created by the collisions had almost shattered the Zhen Yuan wall that everyone had created. White Tiger Kill. Lu Han had thrown out his ace attack. Tuo Baku's comprehensive ability was not as good as Lu Han's, so the power of his ace attack was not as powerful as Lu Han's as well. But, he had a powerful bloodline. A huge shadow with a lizard's body and a dragon's head appeared behind his back. The shadow's neck was extended, and the dragon's head appeared in front of Tuo Baku, blocking that attack for him. Then, that huge shadow's foot that was covered in scales reached out and slapped Lu Han away. With his talent, Tuo Baku had beaten Lu Han after a hard battle. Of course, it did not mean that Lu Han was not as powerful as Mo Xiang. It was just that Lu Han's attacking style was not as powerful as Mo Xiang's. Therefore, he could not suppress Tuo Baku at all. The battle between the two had ignited everyone's battling intent. Mo Xiang could not hold it anymore. He walked out, wanting to challenge Tuo Baku again. It was not that he did not want to challenge the others, but Sikong Sheng and Lu Han had been wounded, Lu Han and Tuo Baku had been wounded, and Rakshasa and Jing Aoshuan had been wounded as well. Although it was not a big deal, he did not want to take advantage of them. As for Murong Qingcheng, he did not want to face her at all. Even though he knew that Murong Qingcheng's power was not weaker than hers, he just could not bring himself to do it. Therefore, only Tuo Baku was not wounded. After 1 night and half a day, the two's wounds had already been healed for a long time. Right now, Tuo Baku had only used up a little bit of Zhen Yuan. Tuo Baku was about to accept the challenge when Yi Chen stood up. Tuo Baku, let me have this battle. You have used up quite a bit of Zhen Yuan. Tuo Baku seemed to have thought of something as he smiled and walked down the stage. Mo Xiang looked shocked. Could it be? Meanwhile, the people who were drinking tea started to discuss and express their opinions. No way. Yi Chen is going to challenge Mo Xiang. Mo Xiang is a true dragon-level warrior, which is even more powerful than the Black Sword artist. The reverse sky thunder cut will probably have no effect on him at all. This is no longer a matter of martial arts. It is a matter of basic power. Yeah. Judging on martial arts, Mo Xiang is not weaker than anyone else. Therefore, even if he had hidden more powerful ace attacks, it would still not work. Is it just for the sake of a challenge? Or maybe he saw that Tuo Baku had used up a lot of Zhen Yuan during the battle with Lu Hun, so he decided to fight for him. When Mo Xiang was battling with Tuo Baku, the blue qi flow that came out of his body was very powerful. It was also the biggest reason why he was able to fight against Tuo Baku's giant lizard shadow. Therefore, not many people thought that Yi Chen would be able to win against Mo Xiang with only his sword spirit level sword intent. Chapter 463. Inside the pavilion, Yi Chen's body shook once as he appeared 100 steps in front of Mo Xiang like a ghost. If you still have the same power as before, you will not be able to win against me. You will lose. Mo Xiang was not sure about Yi Chen, so he tried to test him. Yi Chen said lightly, "Just try your best." Oh. Mo Xiang did not know where Yi Chen got his confidence from, but he could vaguely tell that this battle would not be easy. Yi Chen obviously still had some hidden attacks. But, even if he did, so what? Unless one had learned a profound sense martial art and had learned it to 50%. Unfortunately, 50% of a profound sense martial art was almost the dividing line. Beyond 50%, one would need to use the profound sense to push it, and the poetic perspective would be useless. In other words, without the corresponding profound sense, one would not be able to learn beyond 50% of a profound sense martial art, which would be the true essence of a profound sense martial art. Whether I need to try my best or not, it is up to me to decide. Just as he finished speaking, Mo Xiang bent both of his legs and jumped into the air. It was still the wild goose attack that he had used against Tuo Baku. Although the wild goose attack was simple, and it was not a secret anymore, it was performed by Mo Xiang without any flaws, and it was as fast as a shooting star. His body glided in the air as Mo Xiang's right knee attacked toward Yi Chen with a blue shooting star tail flame. Extremely fast. Extremely fast. This attack had accumulated all of Mo Xiang's explosive power. Right then, there was no point in trying to break through the attack, because under such extreme speed, there would be no time to do so. However, he was fast, but Yi Chen was even faster. The fast part was to take out the sword. In Yi Chen's hands, the process of taking out the sword could be skipped. His mind moved, his hand moved, and the sword qi exploded, tearing apart the sky. Boom! The crescent-shaped sword light and the blue shooting star light clashed together. A circular shockwave spread out, and the Zhen Yuan wall around them made a cracking sound. Such a fast sword-taking speed. Mo Xiang's pupils shrank. The wild goose attack had been blocked out, and the python attack had been stopped. It was the complete opposite of when he was battling against Tuo Baku. Without changing his posture, Yi Chen slid forward with his feet on the ground, but his eyes had already locked onto Mo Xiang, who was exposed by the shockwave, and he slashed at him. The sword qi, which contained the sword's spirit-level sword intent, tore through the air and cut through Mo Xiang's protective Zhen Yuan like a sharp knife. Puff! The sword qi was shattered. Blue qi surged on Mo Xiang's palm, boiling like fire. At the waist of his clothes, there was a cut. Looking down at his waist and then at Yi Chen, Mo Xiang's expression became much more serious. The blue airflow on his right palm suddenly burst out and he swung his hand. Tiger Soul Palm. The blue light palm was like a hot knife through butter, its destructive power multiplied. Mo Xiang was sure that with Yi Chen's current strength, it would be very difficult for him to block the Tiger Soul Palm, and the Tiger Soul Palm was not his strongest attack. It seems like I have to increase my sword intent. The center of his eyebrows slightly swelled, and the sword intent around Yi Chen's body increased drastically. If it was a beginner sword spirit level sword intent before, then it was now a peak level beginner sword spirit level sword intent. As the sword intent grew stronger, Yi Chen's whole body looked like a great sword, showing off its sharpness. Even the people outside of the battle could feel that sharp willpower. Sky Thunder Cut. He was holding the destruction sword in his hand. Although it was not as good as the Thunder Sword, it was still better than the Greenwood Sword. The sword light sliced down, cutting open the blue light palm instantly. What? His sword intent increased again. It was not a hidden ace attack, but a hidden power. Everyone was shocked, but soon realized what was going on. Take my tiger soul cross cut. No one knew when, but Mo Xiang jumped up into the sky. Both of his arms exploded with a blue flame like chi flow, burning fiercely. Then, he crossed his arms and lifted them up high, waving them down. Reverse Sky Thunder Cut. Yi Chen had already prepared for this attack. He held the thunder sword's hilt with his left hand and pulled it out, waving upwards. The blue sword light wrapped around the cross light. Boom! Eventually, the sword light and the cross light were both shattered. The aftershock had shattered a lot of Zhenyuan walls. Fortunately, there were more people there to support the Zhenyuan walls. Mo Xiang was not surprised, since the reverse Sky Thunder Cut was way more powerful than the Sky Thunder Cut. It was expected that it would be able to block out the Tiger Soul Cross Cut. This is your real power. But, I have not shown my real power yet. Whoosh! Not only his arms, but Mo Xiang's whole body had exploded with blue chi flow. These blue chi flows rubbed against each other, looking like a blue flame, burning fiercely. During the battle with Tuabaku, he had planned to use his peak power, but he was stopped by the Thunder Princess. Of course, he also knew that the huge lizard shadow behind Tuabaku was not simple, and the result was still unknown. But, Yi Chen was not Tuabaku, and would not be able to block out his peak power. Mo Xiang is going to use all of his power now. I wonder if Yi Chen can handle it. Probably not. Yi Chen has already used all of his attacks, and Mo Xiang has only just started. Yeah. This blue chi flow is too horrifying. With the blue chi flow, Mo Xiang's power has almost doubled. As the crowd discussed, Tuabaku stared at Yi Chen without blinking. Yi Chen, Mo Xiang has already used his most powerful ace. What about you? What do you have? Not only Tuabaku, everyone was making guesses. The black sword artist who had lost to Yi Chen, the deadly sword artist Leng Zhua who had never battled with Yi Chen before, Luo Shan who had just won a lot, Lu Han who had lost to Tuabaku, Xikong Sheng who had no expression on his face, and even the Thunder Princess Jing Aoshuan, the Edict Prince, and the Astral Spirit Sun. When have I ever shown my real power? Putting the thunder sword back into its scabbard, Yi Chen's sword intent did not decrease, but increased to an extremely horrifying level. That sword intent was so real that it had even shaken up the surreal space, and the sword sound had reached deep into people's souls. Eventually, the sword intent had nowhere to go, so it shot up into the sky. Mid-rank sword spirit level sword intent. What is going on? The sword intent is still increasing. This sword intent is already not weaker than some of the powerful Sea of Souls realm sword artists. Perhaps he has been using the same level of power to fight with his opponents, and as his opponent's power increases, so does his. So horrifying. How can an astral-reaching realm warrior have such a horrifying sword intent? Mo Xiang was shocked. He thought that his opponent had already used up all of his tricks, but who knew that he would only reveal his real power now? If it were not for his power, he would not be able to force his opponent to use his real power. No wonder he had asked him to use all of his power from the beginning. Alright, now it will be interesting. The soaring sword intent had stimulated Mo Xiang's battling intent to the peak. His condition had never been better, and the blue flame on his body was burning brighter and brighter. Take this. With the blue flame wrapped around his body, Mo Xiang's speed, defense, and attack had all reached a whole new level. With a flash, he appeared in front of Yi Chen within a second, throwing out a palm attack. It was indeed the tiger's soul palm, but it was not over yet. His other hand curved up and slashed down. Holding the sword with both of his hands, Yi Chen's hair danced in the air as he threw out two sky thunder cut attacks in a row. Boom! No one knew how many of the Zhenyuan walls had been shattered. Almost half of the people had joined in the training of Jin Yuan walls, but the battle between the two had just begun. Tiger Soul Cross Cut. Reverse Sky Thunder Cut. The two of them did not have many killing moves, but because they were fast enough, it was overwhelming. Moreover, when the same move was used in different situations, it would have different effects. Every step was shocking. I have already learned the 9th movement of the Green Lotus Sword art. But, the best steel should be used on the blade, not now. As he fought, Yichen thought to himself. If Mo Xiang knew about this, he would be very disappointed, which meant that Yichen still had some power left. Back out. Mo Xiang rushed out of the battle and threw out another Tiger Soul Cross Cut. Time to end this. Holding the Destruction Sword in his right hand and the Thunder Sword in his left hand, Yichen slightly lowered his body, looking like a cheetah that was about to attack. Sky Thunder Cut. Reverse Sky Thunder Cut. Both swords were thrown out at the same time. Cross Cut. In front of everyone's shocked eyes, the bright sword light seemed to have divided the sky into 4 parts, and the crossing point was exactly Mo Xiang, who was still in the sky. Pooh! The 2 sword lights combined together had not only shattered the cross light, but also blew Mo Xiang into the sky. There was a cross sword mark on his chest, with blood splashing everywhere. Yichen had won. Until Mo Xiang fell to the ground, the pavilion was silent, not a single sound could be heard. Then, no one knew who was the first to let out a gasp, but the pavilion immediately exploded. The discussions were so loud that it was hard to tell who was speaking. Double sword style? What a joke! This is like 2 sword artists attacking Mo Xiang at the same time. Can one really use 2 ace attacks at the same time? Everyone understood that it was easy to use one sword with each hand, but it would be extremely hard to bring out one's peak power at the same time, not to mention performing 2 ace attacks. Not to mention the problem of body coordination, it would not be enough for one to do 2 things at the same time, because it would affect one's fighting power as well. Unless one could do 3 things at the same time, or 4 things at the same time, they would be able to make better use of it. Otherwise, everyone would be using 2 swords and 2 blades at the same time. Yichen had shocked the world with one brilliant move. Double sword style, scary. Li Daoxian could not find words to describe his shock anymore, so he could only use the word scary. Yan Qihua's mouth twitched a little, but he could not say anything. Mu Lingfeng, who had a bit of admiration for Yichen, squeezed the teacup in his hand tightly, as if he could not believe his own eyes. Only when the teacup shattered and the tea splashed out did he wake up. I thought I had caught up to him, and even had the illusion that I had surpassed him. Sigh. Tuo Baku knew that he was not Yichen's opponent, so there was no need to compete. Crawling up from the ground, Mo Xiang looked at Yichen blankly, watching that Yichen put his sword back into its scabbard with a calm face. The pain in his chest seemed to have been forgotten, and only his qi and blood were boiling. The latter had surprised him too much, so much that he did not know what to feel. Besides the Edict Prince, no one had made him lose so badly. Yichen was the second. So, this is your real power, your extraordinary battle skills. Martial arts were important, but so were battle skills. Powerful warriors could even use their battle skills to play a decisive role. Without a doubt, Yichen was this kind of person, this kind of sword artist. Chapter 464. Returning the 2 swords to their sheaths, Yichen slowly raised his head and looked at Mo Xiang, who was not far away. Mo Xiang's strength was actually very powerful, having long surpassed the boundary of astral-reaching paragons. In other words, even if an extreme astral-reaching expert were equipped with an upper-grade artifact, they would still not be his opponent. This was because Mo Xiang was no longer at the astral-reaching realm. Beyond this realm, he could barely contend against the weakest Sea of Soul realm experts. Naturally, he was not someone an astral-reaching paragons could compare with. Unfortunately, Yichen was even more powerful than his opponent. Back on Blue Mountain Island, his battle power was already twice that of an astral reaching paragons. After that, he had been progressing with every passing second. Not only in terms of basic strength, but also in techniques and sword Dao cultivation base. With the three great sword wills gathered in one body, how could he not progress? Staying where he was would be a disgrace. Dual Sword King is the king of dual sword style. His slaughter will targets any living thing. Only he can bring out the dual sword style to its peak. Right now, I am merely at the tip of the iceberg. Yi Chen was very clear that he was able to use dual swords, but it was only the basics. Of course, even if it was just the basics, it was still not something that normal people could learn. Normal people would never be able to multitask, or even multitask. Besides that, in order to use dual swords, one's soul would have to be more powerful than others. Otherwise, in the long run, it would be very easy to develop schizophrenia. The road I have to walk is still very long. Yi Chen could not help but sigh. Nobody knew why Yi Chen sighed, but under the gentle breeze, Yi Chen, who was dressed in blue robes and had a handsome and elegant appearance, gave people a feeling of being alone and admiring himself. Some of the arrogant beauties were mesmerized. Dual sword style is indeed the top battle technique. I accept my loss wholeheartedly. Adjusting his qi and blood, Mo Xiang cupped his fists towards Yi Chen with a pale face. Yi Chen nodded and said nothing. After Mo Xiang left the stage, Yi Chen followed him. Today was the second day of the tea gathering. In the first 2 days, the 3 true dragon-level experts would not fight each other. Tomorrow would be the climax of the tea gathering. As for Rakshasa's daughter challenging Thunder Princess Jing Aoshuan, it was already against the rules. Jing Aoshuan could reject it until tomorrow. Next, the injured quasi-true dragon rank experts focused on healing their wounds and trying to recover to their peak condition. The ones who went out to spar were the young elites of the first and second level. It was undeniable that the Thunder region, being called the strongest region in the southern sector, was not without reason. Although they did not have as many top warriors as the South Rudra region, which only had 3, their core strength could be said to be frightening. It was 10 times more than the South Rudra region, and several times more than the other regions. Floating Light region and Gold Sand region were a bit weaker than the Thunder region, but they were still powerful. Any random young elite from them would be an expert. Tuabaku shook his head. If South Rudra region wants to get rid of its outer appearance as a weak region, it will not be enough with just us. We can guarantee our position for the next few rounds, but after that, we will not participate anymore. Yi Chen said, the requirements for the tea gathering are too high. Otherwise, it would be better to bring more people. You're right. Let them see the gap between them and the outside world. Only then will they disregard everything and work hard, racing against time. Everything required fighting spirit. If one did not interact with the outside world for a long time, his fighting spirit would disappear, and he would not be able to maintain his peak condition. As a result, his progress would naturally slow down. There were many geniuses in the world, but how many of them were stuck in one place and ended up being mediocre for the rest of their lives? The two would talk occasionally, but most of the time, they would be watching the battles. Although the low-level battles were not that interesting, once one calmed down, they would be able to see their own shortcomings from the others. For example, Yi Chen had watched dozens of young warriors who had mastered the wood mentality battle, so he was able to comprehend the 9th movement of the Green Lotus sword art. If he were to try to comprehend it by himself, it would take him at least 10 times more time. This was the importance of learning from others, and also the other meaning of the tea gathering. The sun went down, and the night arrived. When the darkness disappeared, it was already the morning of the second day. South Rudra region Sikong Sheng would like to learn from Edict Prince Li Xiaoyun. When the first beam of sunlight shone down from the sky, a voice that was not loud shocked everyone. Everyone looked towards the source of the voice. It was Sikong Sheng. Sikong Sheng wants to challenge the Edict Prince? The Edict Prince is the #1 warrior of the Floating Light region, and Lu Hun is the #2. Xikongsheng had just lost to Lu Hun yesterday, so how could he beat the Edict Prince? You can't say it like that. The Edict Prince was indeed the #1 warrior of the Floating Light region 2 years ago. But, the Edict Prince from 2 years ago was not much different from the current dragon-level warriors. Who knows if he has made any progress, or if his progress was not as big as expected. It is not impossible, but it is very small. While everyone was discussing, the black-robed Xikongsheng flew out and stood in the center of the stage, a threatening cold light flickering in his eyes. Edict Prince Li Xiaoyun was slightly startled, as if he didn't expect that the first one to challenge him would be Xikongsheng. He thought that in this tea gathering, it would still be Jing Aoshuan or Astral Spirit Sun who would spar with him. Yu Xian, who was standing on the side, said, "Let me deal with him." Li Xiaoyun smiled lightly, "No need. It seems like they are doubting my strength, thinking that I have not made much progress in the past 2 years. After finishing his words, he patted Yu Xian's soft little hand, stood up, and walked towards the spacious stage. Li Xiaoyun's clothes were just like his name, full of a mysterious aura. The elegant 7-star robe made him look even more carefree. Shoo! Approaching the center of the stage, a bright silver iron fan appeared in Li Xiaoyun's hand, and a wave of great weapon vibration spread out. Yichen thought to himself, there are not many people who use a fan as a weapon, and fan-type weapons are even rarer. But, it is because of this that it is so hard to deal with. Boom! Waiting until Li Xiaoyun was 100 meters away from him, Xikongsheng made his move. It was an extremely horrifying low-rank profound sense martial art, Earth Core Sinking. As the Earth Core Sinking was performed, an endless gravitational force landed on Li Xiaoyun's body, forcing him to be unable to move. Of course, Li Xiaoyun did not plan to move at all. Dragon Fan Dance. Facing Xikongsheng's ace attack, Li Xiaoyun rubbed his thumb, and the bright silver iron fan opened up like a peacock opening its tail. He then waved it towards the right, drawing a bright silver trail in the air. Hoo! 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 This fan seemed to have gathered all the wind yuan qi in the world, and a dragon-like tornado appeared out of nowhere, attacking towards Xikongsheng. Xikongsheng's pupils shrank. He did not care about normal tornadoes, but the one Li Xiaoyun had thrown out was extraordinarily powerful. It could easily shatter mountains, and that dragon-like body was shining with a crystal light, which was an extremely condensed phenomenon. The fist power landed on the tornado, and 30% of its power was immediately cancelled out by the tornado's rotating power. The remaining 70% could not stop the tornado at all. Boom! Boom! Since one punch was not enough, Xikongsheng threw out 2 more punches, and the tornado disappeared right away. Pear Flower Dance. Li Xiaoyun had a smile on his face as he walked over step by step. He waved the iron fan in his hand slightly, and a pear flower-shaped tornado shot towards Xikongsheng. Xikongsheng crossed both of his arms and was blown away. Scythe Blade Dance. Another 2 scythe-like wind blades were thrown out. If it were released by normal people, it would be very easy for them to dodge. However, it was performed by Li Xiaoyun, and it was just that magical. Xikongsheng had only dodged the first one, but was blown away by the second one, with blood dripping down from the corner of his mouth. Too powerful. They are not even at the same level. Who said that the Edict Prince did not improve enough? In my opinion, even the Jing Princess would not be his opponent. I did not expect the Edict Prince to be this powerful. Xikongsheng, who was at the quasi-true dragon level, did not even have the power to fight back, and the Edict Prince did not even get serious. At first, I thought that the 3 true dragon level experts were only a bit stronger than the quasi-true dragon level experts. But now, it seems like they are not just a bit stronger, but a whole level stronger. Everyone was shocked by the Edict Prince's power, including the people of South Rudra region. Tua Baku smacked his lips, his face dumbfounded. How was this a spar? One was blown away even after going all out, while the other was playing it down with a smile on his face. However, the might he had displayed while playing it down was shocking. This was the Edict Prince's strength. Before the Thunder Princess became famous, he was the #1 expert of the southern Rudra region. Even now, a lot of people believed that the Edict Prince was still the #1 expert, and the Thunder Princess and Astral Spirit's son were slightly inferior. Of course, whether it was true or not would have to be observed. Who knew how much of the Thunder Princess's strength had been used? As for the Astral Spirit's son, he had not made a single move from the beginning to the end. He is indeed very powerful. Yi Chen had never felt threatened by anyone of the same generation, not even when he was facing Sikong Sheng in the Hidden Dragon rank competition. However, at this moment, he felt the terror of the Edict Prince. He was clear that he had no choice but to go all out. Just when everyone thought that Sikong Sheng was about to lose the spar, an evil chi suddenly erupted from his body. A berserk martial will erupted, covering the entire Pointer River stage and the majority of the beautiful garden. This martial will was not an ordinary one. It was an evil martial will. This is the ace I left behind. Now, I will use it on you. Let's see how you can endure it. Sikong Sheng punched toward Li Xiaoyun, his evil intent wreaking havoc. Evil martial will. Not bad, but its level is too low. Wait until you condense a true evil soul, then perhaps you will be able to fight against me. But not now. Li Xiaoyun shook his head. The iron fan in his hand spun and shook. Fan dance, 7-star kill. Puchi. 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 7 cold stars appeared around Sikong Sheng's body. The 7 cold stars were connected to each other, looking like the Big Dipper 7 stars, shining brightly. Puchi. Puchi. Puking out a huge amount of blood, the evil intent on Sikong Sheng's body froze for a second before he was blown backward. Li Xiaoyun had won. All the people who were watching the battle in the pavilion were shocked. Sikong Sheng had used his most powerful ace, the ace he would rather lose to Lu Hun than expose, the evil martial will. He thought that it would be enough to fight against the Edict Prince, but it was still not enough. The Edict Prince only needed to get slightly serious to defeat him easily. In everyone's eyes, the Edict Prince, Li Xiaoyun, seemed to be standing on top of a mountain, looking down at the world. He waved the iron fan in his hand, waving it in the sky. Chapter 465. Although Sikong Sheng lost to Edict Prince Li Xiaoyun, he is not simple either. He actually hid the evil will. He should have comprehended it from the evil king, right? Recovering from his thoughts, Tuo Baku said to Yi Chen. Yi Chen nodded. There were many Daos that had separated from the martial Dao, such as the Sword Dao, Demonic Dao, Blade Dao, and naturally, the Evil Dao. The Evil Dao's position was even higher than the Blade Dao, and was equivalent to the Sword Dao and Demonic Dao. The evil will it had evolved from was somewhat similar to the Demonic Dao, but it was a bit more gentle, not as unbridled, cruel, and cold-blooded. The fact that Sikong Sheng could comprehend the evil will was enough to prove his comprehension ability. However, compared to the Edict Prince, he was still a bit too naive. The latter had become famous before anyone here. Even with the evil will, he couldn't even withstand a single blow. How could this so-called Edict Prince be so powerful? The 6th and 7th knights exchanged a glance. In the Evil King Pavilion, only the 1st and 4th knights, Sikong Sheng, had comprehended the evil will. The others didn't. This was also the reason why the Evil King valued Sikong Sheng so much. With the evil will, even if Sikong Sheng didn't condense a true evil soul, his offensive power would still surpass the low-grade martial spirit. However, he still couldn't withstand a single blow. Edict Prince Li Xiaoyun was too frightening. The battle between Edict Prince and Sikong Sheng had caused too much of a commotion, to the point that the battles of the fake dragon level didn't attract much attention. Only when the battle of the quasi-dragon level began did some people calm down. If the first 2 days of the tea gathering were the appetizers, then the third day would be the main meal. The participants of the battle were all experts above the fake dragon level. Right now, it was Gold Sand Region's Luo Shanv and Floating Light Region's Lu Hun. Lu Hun was very powerful, but Luo Shanv was even more powerful. After 100 moves, she defeated Lu Hun. After that, it was the second battle between Tuo Baku and Mo Xiang. In this battle, Thunder Princess Jing Aoshuan had said that no lives could be lost. If they could stop in time, it would be best if they could. If they still couldn't decide the winner, then it would still be a draw. Once the battle had begun, Tuo Baku had released his huge lizard shadow while Mo Xiang's body started to burn with a blue chi flow. The two were ready to use all of their power right from the beginning. Tuo Baku's giant lizard shadow was good at both offense and defense, without any weakness. Mo Xiang's speed, defense, and attack had been doubled. His battling power was horrifying, and he was more focused on attacking. But eventually, Tuo Baku lost. He had not lost in terms of power, but in terms of endurance. The huge lizard shadow consumed a lot of Zhenyuan. After 1,000 attacks, the Zhenyuan inside his body had been completely emptied. Of course, Mo Xiang was not any better. After beating Tuo Baku, he was soaked in sweat, and his legs had even gone soft. Then, it was time for Lu Hun's battle. He was not wounded that badly, and Tuo Baku and Mo Xiang had been battling for a long time, which gave him plenty of time to recover. Plus, as a true dragon-level martial genius, the pellets provided by the martial institutions were not normal, and could not be bought even with spirit stones. This was also the reason why everyone could recover so fast during the tea gathering. Lu Hun's opponent was Murong Qingcheng. As for Xikong Sheng, he had not fully recovered yet. Murong Qingcheng's attacking power was not that powerful, which was below average among the true dragon-level warriors. On the other hand, Lu Hun's defense was very powerful. Even if it was not number 1, it would be number 2. Therefore, this battle was extremely tough, and no one could do anything to the other. Thunder Princess Jing Aoshuan could only announce it as a draw. Chu Zhongtian, I have not seen you make a move yet. I would like to see it for myself. After Xikong Sheng challenged the Edict Prince Li Shaoyun, another bomb was dropped on the stage. Yi Chen was going to challenge the astral spirit son, Chu Zhongtian. Wearing blue robes and with a long sword on his waist, Yi Chen stood on the stage and looked at the astral spirit son, Chu Zhongtian. Chu Zhongtian frowned slightly, seeming to be unhappy as he said lightly, "You better back off. There is no need for a battle between you and me." Why doesn't the astral spirit son accept the challenge? Earlier, Luo Shanv challenged Princess Jing, and Xikong Sheng challenged the Edict Prince, Li Shaoyun. Both of them accepted the challenge. Haven't you seen it? The astral spirit son thinks that Yi Chen is not his opponent, and he doesn't want to fight. Look at his face. Those with good eyesight were able to see the blood on the first prick. This is a bit too much. Even if Yi Chen is not as powerful as him, there is no need for him to not accept the challenge. The astral spirit son has always been like this. He is arrogant and does whatever he wants. But, he does have the right to be arrogant. I wonder how Yi Chen is going to deal with this. His dual sword style should not be underestimated. He might have a chance. Yi Chen was not angry. He raised his eyebrows and said, "You don't dare to accept the challenge." Picking up the teacup and taking a sip, Chu Zhongtian lowered his eyes. "You still don't understand what I'm saying. You are not my opponent. The so-called dual sword style is nothing in front of me. So, I don't need to waste my time on you." Yi Chen smiled, but there was a hint of weirdness in his smile. Seeming to feel that Chu Zhongtian had spoken, Luo Shanv stood up. "Yi Chen, since my head disciple doesn't want to fight, why don't I spar with you for a bit?" "No need. He will come out." Shoo! If the opponent did not want to come out, then he would fight him. Taking out the thunder sword, Yi Chen threw out a sky thunder cut toward the pavilion where the astral spirit sun was. This sky thunder cut was definitely not ordinary, because it contained a peak-level sword spirit sword intent, which was much more powerful than the one he had used against Emoxiang. Luo Shan had not expected that Yi Chen would attack just like that. Her eyebrows creased as she tried to defend against the sword light with a serious expression. However, her power was only at the same level as Emoxiang's. How could she possibly defend against this sky thunder cut? A purple light flashed as her whole body was blown away, and the pavilion was about to be cut into two. Swoosh! The sword light disappeared as Chu Zhongtian had shattered it with a single punch. After throwing out this punch, Chu Zhongtian slowly stood up. As he stood up, the space within a radius of tens of meters, including the pavilion, seemed to be shaking, as if it could not withstand the pressure of Chu Zhongtian's aura. Your power is indeed not bad, but my current level is still too early for you. Pausing for a while, Chu Zhongtian continued, since you insist on fighting with me, I will fulfill your wish. Let me warn you first, this battle will be very fast. Don't hold any hope. Although Chu Zhongtian's attitude was arrogant, it had undoubtedly ignited the passion of everyone present, including Thunder Princess Jing Aoshuan and Edict Prince Li Xiaoyun. They all attached great importance to this battle, because they could vaguely see the astral spirit sun's power. As long as you're willing to fight, it's fine. As for the result, you don't need to worry about it, because you will find that the result is not within your expectations. Yi Chen's voice was very calm. Chu Zhongtian stared at Yi Chen, the corner of his mouth twitching. In the past year, I've fought with 13 spirit realm experts. Among them, I've killed 2, defeated 7, and fought 4 to a draw. Among them, there was a swordsman. While speaking, Chu Zhongtian took out his weapon, a dark red mace with many sections connected to each other. It was very heavy, with a smooth tip. Everyone present could not suppress their astonishment. They all knew that the astral spirit sun had fought with spirit realm experts, but no one knew that he had fought with as many as 13, and 2 of them had died in his hands. Moreover, he had defeated 7. This result was enough to shock the world. Looking at Yi Chen, Chu Zhongtian said, against you, 60% of my power is enough. While speaking, the mace in his hand ignited a dark red air current that was like a mist. As soon as it came in contact with the air, a large area immediately turned into a vacuum. Yi Chen squinted his eyes. Although the astral spirit sun was arrogant, his strength was not to be underestimated. The true yuan qi that was emitted had burned the air, which meant that the opponent's true yuan had reached an unimaginable level. At least, he had never seen anyone's true yuan that could directly evaporate the air, not to mention the true yuan qi that was emitted. Just a strand of true yuan qi was already so frightening. Then, what about true yuan? It should be at least several times stronger than true yuan qi. Take my mace first. From afar, Chu Zhongtian waved his mace. A dark red shadow tore through the sky, carrying a mountain-shattering momentum as it attacked toward Yi Chen. What harm is there in taking your mace? Yi Chen raised the thunder sword and slashed out. Rumble. It was just a normal exchange between the two, but the shockwave created was far more powerful than any battle between quasi-true Dragon Realm experts. Countless true yuan barriers were shattered. Not bad, barely enough to pique my interest. No one saw how Chu Zhongtian moved. By the time his voice arrived, he had already arrived in front of Yi Chen and attacked 46 times. Each attack was extremely powerful, as if there was a mountain compressed within. What was more frightening was that the person holding the mace was even more powerful than a mountain. Boom 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 boom, shockwaves suddenly exploded on the open field. Within the shockwaves, mace shadows flew everywhere and sword chi crisscrossed. If not for the thunder pattern iron's restriction power protecting it, it would have been torn apart countless times already. Nearly 400 people opened their eyes wide, wanting to see the exchange between the two clearly. However, those who could clearly see the battle could be counted on one hand. The rest of the people were in a daze and could not see anything clearly. Fuck. What kind of speed is this? What kind of attacking power is this? Just the shockwave alone is enough to tear me into pieces. It's like fighting in a superstorm. The more they could not see clearly, the more excited they became. Because they could not see clearly, it meant how terrifying the battle between the two was. It was a battle beyond their imagination. They admired Yi Chen from the bottom of their hearts for being able to last this long. But at the same time, they could not help but gasp at Astral Spirit Sun's power. This was 60% of his power, and if he were to use all of it, it would be enough to turn the sky upside down. In the center of the expanding shockwaves, Yi Chen/Chu Zhongtian's shadow into pieces. His expression did not change as he turned around to defend against the real attack. Pang! The sword and the talisman clashed. The blue sword qi and the dark red talisman shadow clashed together, creating a spiral-shaped explosion. 90% of the Zhen Yuan barrier was shattered instantly, and a lot of people puked out blood. They were blown out of the stage, their faces pale. Let's go to the sky. Yi Chen shot up into the sky. Chapter 466. Chu Zhongtian sneered and chased after him with his dark red rapier. The two, one in front and one behind, were like two beams of aurora, one blue and one red. Up in the sky, the two of them were no longer restrained. Both of them raised their speed to a new height. Two beams of aurora kept clashing against each other, and shockwaves rippled out from their collisions. The blue and red shockwaves formed a marvelous sight in the sky above Thunder City. Swish! After another clash, the two retreated several hundred meters away from each other. I admit that your strength is a bit higher than I had imagined. The two's exchange just now was too fast, and it was purely a battle of speed. Therefore, Chu Zhongtian did not use any of his powerful moves. Yi Chen glanced at the dark red rapier in Chu Zhongtian's hand and said indifferently, "This is just the beginning. Actually, you were testing my strength, and I was also testing yours. Without sufficient strength, I might not be able to use my full strength." Although the two's tone was not high, under the amplification of Zhen Yuan, it could be heard dozens of li away. Hearing Yi Chen's reply, everyone was dumbfounded. Earlier, Astral Spirit Sun had said that Yi Chen was not worthy of exchanging pointers with him, and that he could defeat him with only 60% of his strength. Who would have thought that Yi Chen also had the same thought, thinking that Astral Spirit Sun would not use his full strength if he did not display his strength? My God, is this really Yi Chen's first time participating in the tea gathering? Why do I feel that he is treating himself as a true dragon-level expert? Experts all have the bearing of an expert. If they can save some strength, they will. Yi Chen's words made the spectators within dozens of li excited. They knew that this exchange would not be simple. Chu Zhongtian's expression turned slightly cold. Be careful of your tongue being cut by the wind. It won't be too late to talk after receiving one of my moves. I'll accompany you to the end. The sword intent emitted from Yi Chen's body seemed to have materialized. The two looked at each other from a distance. Their majestic auras clashed, causing hurricanes to blow up in the sky and clouds to gather and disperse. Almost at the same time, the two moved, charging straight at each other. Boom! The two objects approached each other at an extreme speed. The space between them could not bear the pressure and exploded. Fragmentation mace. On the way, the dark red mace in Chu Zhongtian's hand became brighter and brighter. Specks of dust floated around the mace. These specks of dust flickered with a dreamy light from time to time, as if they were specks of dust compressed from gems. Turning the macroscopic into the microscopic, what a profound technique. Amidst the extreme speed, Yi Chen felt as if time had stopped. He looked at the treasured mace in Chu Zhongtian's hand and the dreamy dust surrounding it. He knew that this move was definitely not ordinary, and it probably had a different kind of destructive power. Destruction sword intent, Sky Thunder Cut. Pouring the destruction sword intent into the thunder sword, Yi Chen raised the sword high and hacked out, leaving a bright arc of light in the air. Dong! Pitter-patter. The sword and the talisman clashed. First, there was a loud sound, followed by countless small explosions. Between the two of them, countless small fireworks exploded. You actually broke my fragmentation mace. While being blown away by the shockwave, Chu Zhongtian's pupils shrank. As the user of the fragmentation mace, only he knew how powerful this move was. Those specks of dust might not seem to have any destructive power, but if one underestimated them and allowed them to get close to the body, no matter how strong one's defense was, one would still be blown half to death. That was because every speck of dust contained a lot of Jin Yuan, and the moment it exploded, it would be extremely terrifying. However, Yi Chen had blocked his attack and detonated the specks of dust, causing the fragmentation mace to fail to achieve its intended effect. Very good, you have the qualifications to make me take you seriously. Chu Zhongtian stopped his body and stepped into the air. Dragging his long sword backward, Yi Chen stopped as well. He looked up and said, if you have any powerful attacks or hidden power, just use them all. In front of me, you have no advantage at all. Ha, don't be so full of yourself. This fragmentation mace isn't my strongest move. Moreover, I feel that it's time to increase my battle power. As he spoke, an extremely dazzling yet not glaring dark red light burst out from Chu Zhongtian's body. His entire body seemed to be made of diamond, because how could a human's body endure such pure Jin Yuan? The purity of this Jin Yuan surpassed everyone else's. Fire spirit body, wrong. Earth spirit body, wrong as well. Jing Aoshuan and Li Xiaoyun were guessing astral spirit sun's constitution. They had never fought with this person before, so they knew very little about him. They only knew that he had the strength to kill ordinary spirit warriors. This couldn't be faked, and no one would do so. However, neither the fire spirit body nor the earth spirit body were this tyrannical. The latter's constitution seemed to have surpassed the elemental spirit body, which was why he could endure purer and more explosive Jin Yuan. Fortunately, he hadn't condensed a true martial soul. Otherwise, he would be even more frightening. The superiority of innate talent could sometimes obliterate a lifetime's worth of effort. Yi Chen, receive this mace of mine, and I'll admit that you're my opponent. Although Chu Zhongtian had turned serious, there were degrees of seriousness. Evidently, this was only ordinary seriousness. Can Yi Chen do it? The Jin Yuan bursting out of astral spirit sun's body is already not inferior to any spirit warrior. It's just that the quantity is a bit smaller. Yeah. This is my first time seeing an astral reaching expert with Sea of Soul Realm Jin Yuan. Everyone knew how frightening astral spirit sun was. Therefore, they were more partial to him. After all, the former was famous here, while Yi Chen had no fame in the southern sector. Yi Chen didn't reply, nor did he explain. He only made a single movement, which was to return the thunder sword to its sheath. Then, his body faintly trembled, like a peerless sword shaking off the dust on its body, once again blossoming with a resplendent radiance. Bang! The soaring sword intent was as viscous as water, soaring straight into the clouds. The sea of clouds was torn apart, revealing a spiral-shaped hole. Stunning sky was torn apart, and the purest Yuan Qi inside couldn't leak out, completely sealed by the sword intent. To tear apart stunning sky by relying on sword intent alone, how powerful was this sword intent? Edict Prince Li Xiaoyun raised his head, his eyes squinting into a line as he said word by word, Quasi-Master Sword Intent. Quasi-Master Sword Intent and Master Sword Intent had similar foundations, but the latter blossomed with Sword Intent radiance. In other words, as long as the Quasi-Master Sword Intent blossomed with radiance, it would immediately advance to Master Sword Intent. However, in any case, Quasi-Master Sword Intent was already the strongest sword intent under Master Grade. In terms of might, it was more or less the same as Master Grade Martial Will. Chu Zhongtian was stunned, and his expression immediately turned gloomy. He originally thought that exchanging pointers with the opponent was already giving him a lot of face. But now, the situation seemed to have reversed. The opponent exchanging pointers with him was also giving him face, and it turned into him challenging the opponent, while the latter's sword intent continued to rise. Take my attack. Tyrant Dragon Rapier Destruction. His figure flashed as Chu Zhongtian grabbed the dark red rapier with both of his hands, exploding with speed. A tangible light shot out from Yi Chen's eyes as he pulled out the destruction sword with his right hand and held the thunder sword's hilt with his left hand, accumulating power and lowering his center of gravity. Whoosh! Before Chu Zhongtian arrived, the strong wind had already blown Yi Chen's long black hair into the air, making it look like a black waterfall. Coupled with his handsome and elegant face, he looked like a sword artist from a painting. Arriving above Yi Chen in an instant, Chu Zhongtian raised the rapier in his hand high up. A blazing dark red stream shot out like a dark red demonic dragon, making him look like a deity. One was extremely moving, the other extremely calm. It formed a miraculous scene where even the wind stopped moving. Break! Chu Zhongtian roared and hacked down with the rapier. Chop! Yi Chen waved his left and right hands at the same time. Two sword lights slashed out, interweaving into an irregular cross shape, dividing the space in front of him into 4 parts. Tyrant Dragon Rapier Destruction. Sky Thunder Cut, Reverse Sky Thunder Cut. The two killing moves collided. The crowd could not hear anything at all. They could only see a huge mottled light ball wrapping around the two, making it impossible to see their figures. Boom! A dark red demonic dragon rushed out and tore the light ball apart. Puchi! A sword mark appeared on the other side of the light ball as sword lights soared into the sky. The next moment, a shockwave spread out like a flash flood. In the blink of an eye, it covered the sky of dozens of li. At the center of the shockwave, a dark red and dark blue light beam pierced through the clouds and soared into the sky. Look, the buildings outside the splendid garden are weathering. The streets are also sinking. Someone saw a shocking scene. The sturdy buildings made of thunder-veined stones had turned into fine sand, scattering with a breeze. It filled the entire sky, and the streets were also filled with dust and sinking rapidly. The destructive power created by the exchange between the two shocked everyone once again. Not only were the spectators of the younger generation shocked, even the experts in Thunder City were shocked. What level of battle could affect such a large area? Was the level of this year's tea gathering really that high? The corner of Jing Aoshuan's mouth twitched. Fortunately, the splendid garden was protected by a restrictive power. Otherwise, under this attack, the entire garden would have been obliterated. As for the buildings outside the garden, they were not residential buildings. Since the martial tea gathering was taking place, there was no one there. Otherwise, who knew how many people would have died under the aftermath? Pang! In the sky, Chu Zhongtian's body flew backwards. The clothes on his chest had a crisscrossed sword mark, revealing his skin and muscles. His skin and muscles did not suffer any injuries, only 2 white marks were left, and his muscles were slightly dented. However, his expression was one of extreme anger, as if his dignity had been challenged. An even more terrifying aura erupted from his body, boiling wantonly. As his opponent, Yi Chen only took 3 steps back before stopping his body and looking at the retreating Chu Zhongtian with an indifferent expression. Not only is his Jin Yuan powerful, his physical body is also terrifyingly strong. Even the dual sword style couldn't hurt him. Yi Chen frowned slightly. The power of the dual sword style was obvious to all. When one's power was raised to the same level, the power of the dual sword style would be equivalent to a profound martial skill at 40% completion. And this was because Yi Chen had only learned the basics of the dual sword style. Even so, it was still extremely powerful. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.